Hello, welcome to our Spotlight Q&A for Regenerate Ojai. And I'm going to be speaking with one of the filmmakers behind this film, Rebecca Harrell Tickell. And I'm just so excited to talk to her because of her passion for the environment and activism, and using her talents as a filmmaker to really elevate all of these important issues and really get people engaged. And I'm just so excited to talk to her. So Rebecca, come and join me. Hi there. How are you?
Hi. I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be a part of the Cinema Femme Film Festival, and especially have Regenerate Ojai as a part of it.
Yes. And I definitely want to pick apart this film, but I couldn't help but, my husband, Matt Fagerholm, who recently interviewed you for Cinema Femme. It was such a good interview. And there were certain things you said in the interview I kind of just wanted to quote and then get your comment on, because I think it leads to where Regenerate Ojai is. So yeah, first quote I really liked was, "I'll watch a good movie and it will rearrange my cells to the point where I'll come out of it a new person. That's what I wanted to participate in. And I realized that my agents didn't really care about that. The projects I was being offered just weren't what I signed up for, so I quit." So I guess I would like to know, what I am curious what films, I guess, excited you and inspired you to go the way that you've been going with, elevating these environmental issues.
I mean, obviously Prancer, the film I was in as a little girl, had a massive impact on me and the way I relate to film and the way I recognize the power that film has to change the world. And if you get enough people watching a film, you get enough people who've had what I was talking about, like their soul gets touched, their cells get rearranged. You can watch something in 90 minutes, and through that storytelling, you really can be inspired to take your life in a new direction. And so I realized that as a 9-year-old, that film had that power. And then I remember, actually, people kind of make fun of me. And I was having lunch with Woody Harrelson actually a couple of weeks ago.
Wow.
And I told him this, and he thought this was very funny. But my favorite movie is Wag the Dog. And it's a political dark comedy.
Right.
Kind of the way that the system works. And, I remember watching that movie, and that also kind of opened up my eyes to what resonated deeply, which is that storytelling can be used for good or it can be used for bad. Mm-hmm. And I recognized I was seeing threads of that throughout the world. I was seeing threads of that through the stories in the media that I was being exposed to. I mean, that film really resonated deeply with me. I remember watching Laura Dern's TV show Enlightened on HBO,
right.
And I just about a woman who, was working at this company, and she started speaking out about the chemicals that they were putting into baby products. So they put her in the basement. Shows like that really resonated with me, that inspired me, that helped me come out of my shell to take action around issues that were really important. And when I came to Hollywood, like I said in that quote, it was really bad. It was just like the muck of Hollywood that I was getting access to. And I realized that I have a bigger purpose here on this earth. I think we all do. And I was ready to stop what I was doing, stop letting other people dictate what I was going to use my energy towards. And I was going to start creating projects that resonated with me and use that power of storytelling to change the world.
Yeah, I love that. Oh my goodness. And that kind of goes into the next quote that I was going to read, that movies that help people transcend consciousness and open their hearts. That's what I think you said a little something before, but that's kind of what you're drawn to. And you say, for me, filmmaking and art provides access to the great beyond. And that's what I'm trying to tap into. Did you want to comment a little bit more on that?
Well, I think this is what us humans have known from the beginning of time. I mean, when we hear a great story, it's like suddenly the everyday pain that we all experience and suffering and disconnection, all of that can be transcended. And yeah, I mean, for me, it is almost like a spiritual act to participate in storytelling. And when I watch a film that has that same kind of effect on me, where I'm left inspired and I'm empowered, for me, that's transcendent. And so I do think as humans, we have the power to galvanize, inspire, touch people's souls, awaken consciousness through the stories that we tell.
Yeah, that's so great. And I love like how you and, meeting your husband, how you both kind of came together with this similar passion for the environment, and just how you have been more driven because he's driven, and how you guys feed off of each other. And I really thought about my husband and I, Matt, because we both share the desire to elevate stories or films directed by women and non-binary people. And I feel like I understand, like, you have a similar passion. Can you talk about how you guys kind of you've done many films together, but can you kind of talk about your path that I guess led to where you are now, or just, your relationship and how that's deepened your path to filmmaking?
Yeah, I saw Josh when I was 17, and he was on the Today Show driving his veggie van across the country and promoting biodiesel from used cooking oil that he would make and then put it in to run his van. And it was because he had come from Cancer Alley, a part of Louisiana where there's a 100-mile stretch with 150 petrochemical companies all in one small area. And the people who he knew and his family were getting sick from exposure to the chemicals that they were using in that process. And he realized, look, we don't have to go to war for oil. We don't have to poison ourselves. There is a better way. Mm-hmm. And I remember that was one of those moments where I watched something on television and I was inspired, and it left an imprint, in my heart and my soul. And so many years later, I guess not that 2005. So I was 25 and I met him. He and I definitely had a spark right away. And I didn't realize he was the veggie van guy. But after he and I had been friends for about a year, we started dating, and I went over to his house and there was the veggie van. And then there was the film that he was working on, about fuel. And I just knew in that moment that, everything, all the tools I had, all of the training I'd had and experience in show business, I wanted to use that to help elevate his message, kind of the way you like to elevate films. I wanted to do that with him and with his film. And sort of very quickly, we realized that this is what we were meant to do together. And that was, almost 20 films ago.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, people look at us and they're like, gosh, I don't know how you work with your husband. I could never do that with my partner, but that's how we came together. That's what, that's what, when we have downtime, we love to work together. It's just kind of what we're made for. And this is kind of funny. It's kind of a little side story, but I recently was looking up the meaning of our names, and the name Josh means to save or salvation. And the name Rebecca means beauty or earth or dirt. Put our names together, it's to save earth or to
that's great.
Mm-hmm. And I really feel like he and I came together with that purpose. It does feel like there's a bigger purpose in our union, and that we're here to do just that.
Yeah, that's so great. And I guess then we'll lead to Regenerate Ojai. I would like, I need to do a lot more research on this, but I'm interested on what Regenerate farming is, and you touch on it in the film, but I was wondering for our viewers if you could just kind of explain what that is.
Yeah, regenerative farming is how we can get ourselves out of the mess we've gotten ourselves into with the climate. In fact, the majority of the issues that we face regarding our climate are because of the way that we've done agriculture. It certainly doesn't help that we're emitting all this carbon into the atmosphere, and the legacy load of carbon that we've put into the atmosphere since the Industrial Revolution. But, we're talking about a millennia of, 10,000 years of bad agriculture, of desertification and extraction to grow food. And in the process of the way that we grow food, we destroy our ability to grow food. And now we've done this on a global level, and we're looking at 50 years left of harvests because of the way that we're farming.
Yeah.
Degenerative way of farming that uses very lots of chemical inputs. We're destroying the topsoil using tillage. I mean, we're disconnecting, soil is like this web of communication for roots from different plants to be able to move nutrients and minerals around, and to be able to ward off pests and disease. And they're resilient when they have healthy soil. We're resilient when we have healthy soil. But when we destroy our soil, suddenly you are then dependent on these chemicals to prevent the bugs and the diseases from coming in and taking over. And we've gotten ourselves kind of like a drug addict in our food system into a predicament where we're having more weather events. We're creating desertification. We've got fire. We've got drought. It's across the board a catastrophe, and in large part because of the way we grow our food. But the good news is, through regenerative agriculture, we can turn that around. We can store water in healthy soil. We can store carbon in healthy soil. We can reverse desertification. We can grow nutrient-dense food that creates a profit for the farmer, that's healthy for our bodies, that solves a lot of the issues that we're facing in the world today, like massive climate migration. When people are hungry and they don't have water, that leads to war. I mean, we really can stop wars through regenerative agriculture. We can literally create a future for our kids and for all the future generations that is abundant and thriving and healthy, all through regenerative practices. And basically, regenerative agriculture means growing food in a way that leaves the soil better than it was before, building healthy soil, building healthy people, building a healthy environment, building a healthy world.
Yeah. Oh God. I need to be educated, and it's just getting me excited about learning, and also I want to be a part of the solution, not the problem, and I love how your films do that. And can you talk about how, I don't know how long you've lived in the Ojai area, but how did this, how did you become aware of all of these things that were going on with the pesticides and how it was affecting the people of the town?
Well, I live in Ventura County in California, and we are a mass food exporter here. So we grow a lot of strawberries, we grow a lot of citrus, we grow a lot of different foods, avocados, vegetables. And often we moved here 11 years ago, and I would notice the agriculture along the side of the road. Specifically, I would notice migrant workers working out in the fields in really harsh conditions. And then I would notice the sprayers with what appeared to be some type of chemicals being sprayed into the fields. I would notice the dust flying into the air right off of these fields, like the fields were literally blowing away. I mean, I'd have to roll up the windows because it might, you'd get grit in your mouth and in your eyes. And, that definitely was on my mind as we were making our last sort of big film, Kiss the Ground, that came out in 2020. And we were talking about desertification and regenerative agriculture. And I'm starting to look around. I'm like, wow, this is kind of an epicenter of all of the bad things that we're talking about, all of the things that cause desertification and unhealthy people in an unhealthy environment. And then my daughter was going to a summer camp in a park, and I went to drop her off. And there was all of these people with sprayers, spraying Roundup all along the creek to eradicate and did like not an invasive species. So this was the conservation organization spraying Roundup into the riverbed to eliminate an invasive species to save the trout. And I'm thinking to myself, there's so many things wrong with what I'm witnessing right now. But the main thing is that there's all of these kids out here.
Yeah.
Spraying these chemicals that I can spray that are irritating my eyes. I can smell it. And nobody's wearing protective gears. There's no signs anywhere letting people know that this is happening. And then I just started to peel back the onion. And I mean, a lot of people in our town have been talking about this for a long time. A lot of women for decades have been called hysterical. So many people have died. This is like a cancer cluster here where I live. People are like, don't move to the East End. You'll get breast cancer. That's kind of like hush, hush. People have been talking about it. And then one day, right over our house, right out here, a helicopter flew over. And the spray started before they got to the neighbor's hill, but hills here, and they can't use a tractor to spray. They often will use helicopters or aerial sprayers, and they sprayed the neighbor's farm, and it drifted right onto our property, and all four of us were gagging and coughing. And so that was kind of our hard intro into, okay, we can't talk about regenerative agriculture on a global scale and ignore what's literally happening in our backyard. Like we have, and then so we rolled up our sleeves and we started, back in 2017, like we held a town hall meeting and we thought, this is great. We're going to do something about it. And people were like, ha ha, yeah, good luck with that. Because we didn't know how dug in people were to these types of practices of spraying some of the highest amounts of the worst chemicals available in the United States, right next to schools and young people. I mean, the statistics are insane. It's like 6 pounds per person per year of the worst neurotoxins and just, hormone disruptors, things that make people sick and can kill people. I mean, if you're spraying it on your food to kill the bug, think about what that's going to do when you then eat that food and it goes inside of your body. So we're getting it, everyone's getting exposed to it to a degree when you eat conventional food. But then if you live near where agriculture is happening, you're getting a whole different level of exposure. And that's this chronic exposure, which we have here in the Ojai Valley, because we're like in a bowl that we're surrounded by mountains. We have this low environment layer. There's no place for all these chemicals to dissipate to. I've learned for years in our films about pollution that in the industry, they say the solution to pollution is dilution. And I mean, that's also very funny, but here where we live, there is no place for it to drift to. It just drifts onto all of us. And so that's what got us into making this film.
Yeah. I mean, you nail it on the head with everything. I mean, all the evidence is there, how the people are getting affected, like the cancers, it's something that I was, I went to school in Santa Barbara and I saw the migrant workers and I guess you don't think about it. So I'm interested, the way that you shot the film was so interesting to me, how you got those overhead shots of the farms and how you got all the, the pesticide spraying. Like, how did you go about filming all of that?
Well, it's funny you should ask that. We haven't really talked about this, but both Josh and I got sick 3 times making the short film. We got exposed. We had to go into the doctor on 3 different occasions. One time, Josh's face swelled up because we rolled down the window and we were filming spraying happening. And then another time I ended up with all these bumps in my mouth from breathing in chemicals that had just been sprayed. And keep in mind, there was people out there at the time, migrant workers who were out there being exposed to the same stuff at an even higher degree. And it made Josh and I sick. And then we were told by the doctor that we saw that it was a result of getting exposed to those chemicals. And so what we were thinking was chemical sensitivity. And we have a full film studio here. So we have drones and we have cameras and we have all of that stuff. And we use that to go out into the world to make our movies. And so it was a no-brainer to take those cameras and use them here in our community to document what we're seeing every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was kind of like our side passion project in the middle of making our sort of bigger films. We didn't really have resources for it, but that's why it took us so long. It took us about 6 years to make this film.
Yeah. And I love how you get, the big visuals with the agriculture and the farms and all that. And then you also talk to the people and with their personal stories. And I thought it was interesting how Diane Ladd was in there telling her story. And then you get, some migrant workers and some activists. And, you really get a mix of people from all over. It's not just one type of person telling their story. You have all different kinds of people. How did you, find those people, and how did they get attracted to your, project?
I mean, they're just here. They're the people I see,
Mm.
and they're the people in our community. Those are some people like Connor, David White, people who are doing from Farmer and the Cook, people who are doing regenerative agriculture here are people that I'm constantly talking to, running ideas by, finding out what it's like for them here where we live. And then also just getting interested in the in the Latino community here and finding out, asking questions and sort of like finding out what I could find out. It was hard actually to get people who are willing to talk about that, because so many people are afraid that if they say something that, they could get deported. And that's a real fear, or maybe they won't get hired back. And then they won't, a lot of people are sharing a room with 8-10 people and have their children. I'll see children out in the fields while they're picking or while they're spraying. And there's a lot of just, this is a community that's known as the last plantation because of the practices that are done here. It's very, they're based on the principles of slavery. And even Cesar Chavez said, forget Ventura County, like they're the worst. And, decades have passed and the practices haven't really changed. And in fact, the chemicals are worse in some way. It just depends on what we have. The citrus problem with a bug, the Asian citrus psyllid, which everyone's afraid is going to destroy all of their citrus. And so they've gotten into this cycle of intervention where they can't get off of the chemicals. And it's a scary thing for a lot of citrus farmers to think about going regenerative.
Yeah.
We're talking about a whole mindset shift, because you can't just do monocrop anything and destroy the soil and keep spraying it with stuff and think that that's going to work. It has to be biodiverse.
Yeah.
The only way that builds resiliency is that diversity. I mean, that's true for human beings and that's true for plants. And especially for soil. So, it's been an interesting journey because some people don't want to talk to me about it because it can threaten their livelihood. And, my kids go to school with farmers who practice this and who've done this for decades, for generations. And so, we've had some threats and we've had to deal with some issues where people have lashed out at us. They've called us names. They've called us hysterical. They've put asphalt in our mailbox and trespassed.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So it's been, personal. It's different from making a film that's out there in the world for other people about other places.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so brave that you guys are doing that. You're really making a difference. And I do want to talk about, what you hope this film, like kind of like the call to action, like when people watch this film, whether it's in Ojai or, Chicago or, anywhere, like what you hope people see in your film.
Yeah. Well, I was just reading a Wendell Berry quote. He says, eating is an agricultural act. So every time we eat, we are voting towards what type of agriculture we want to see in the world. Do we want to have more chemicals, more soil degradation, more human rights violations? Do we want that food to nourish our body? Or do we want to have our food be a revolutionary act? And do we want it to be part of regenerating the earth and building soil health and helping out farmers who are mired in debt because they're stuck in this crazy situation where they have to buy crop insurance and they're propped up by subsidies to plant more corn, and that's not going to help anybody,
Right.
So really use each time we eat as an opportunity to support the system that we want to see. And we can also participate in the system. We can grow food. I mean, I've got chickens running around, and you don't even have to have a large area, just in a backyard. It's amazing how much food you can grow. And then as a community, if you start taking that on, instead of having yards, you can have regenerative food forests in communities and exchange food, and you can feed people. And I think really what I hope this movie will inspire is that inch by inch and acre by acre, we start to practice growing food in a way that can sustain life on Earth, on human life on Earth for more than 7 generations into the future. I mean, I'm worried about my kids. I'm worried about all of us, what their future is going to be. But I also see that there's this great opportunity for us to course correct and to change the trajectory that we're on, and to really create, a Garden of Eden on this earth. In some ways, it's almost like a biblical, like we've talked in, like even the Bible, it talks about, it's about desertification and food shortages and war. And, this is something that's been going on for 10,000 years. And we have a tiny little window of time to fix it, to save ourselves on this planet. And so I'm going to work on that here in Ojai. And I know that there's a huge group of people here in Ojai and Ventura County who, like me, are committed to inch by inch and acre by acre. And I think that a lot of people can resonate with what they see in the film Regenerate Ojai, which is why we made the film, not just for us, but it could be, anywhere in the United States going through their own version of this. And I just hope, especially, I know moms are deeply concerned about this. They want their children to be healthy. And I mean, if you start to look at the effects of food that's grown in this way, when it's grown in a degenerative, conventional way, we're talking about learning disabilities. We're talking about hormone disruptors. We're talking about things that are every day. We're seeing an epidemic of the impact from eating these types of foods that cause a myriad of health issues, especially with our kids. And so, and the way we fix that is on the farm, at the grocery store, and in the kitchen.
Yeah. Oh God. I'm revved up now, and I just want to learn more about this. And, we'll have to have a part 2 of this conversation, because I would love to, start on a journey and then circle back with you. But, before we close things up, I would love to hear about your new film that you are actually getting an award at Tribeca, Human Nature Award. And can you talk about this new film and kind of how it's continuing on your passion for supporting the environment and farming and all that?
I love our new movie. It's called Common Ground. We're still racing to finish it. It's premiering in a month, as you said, at Tribeca. It's a love letter to our children. It's a letter. It's the narration is a letter, and it's read by Laura Dern, Jason Momoa, Ian Somerhalder, Woody Harrelson. I'm forgetting Rosario Dawson, and Glover. And it's about how we've messed up the planet and explaining to them how we did that, and the good news that there is a way out of it. And it's called regenerative agriculture. And it's a promise that we're going to fight like hell to save their future. And then you could never have seen any of our other films. You could watch this film. And as far as I'm concerned, it's definitely the best thing that Josh and I have ever worked on. We have the music, we shot the whole thing during COVID too, which is crazy.
Wow.
I know. So we had, 3 film crews on the road during COVID, and we were talking to people that were, basically in isolation, taking their masks off with other people, but it was the film is, it's an intimate journey on how we can heal ourselves and heal the planet through food and we can fix our broken food system.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to watch it. And, like I said, we'll have to have another conversation. And there are some people who are leaving comments. I don't think they're leaving questions, but they're really revved up by our conversation. So hello from Ventura County. Josh and Rebecca are doing incredibly important advocacy through their films. Adam Vega.
Oh,
I don't know.
Adam Vega.
Yeah.
He introduced us actually. He's the reason why we were able to film the migrant worker story. In fact, he's in Ojai. Thank you, Adam. I love you, Adam. You and I have some planning to do around a town hall in Oxnard.
That's great. Yeah. And then we have someone else. When I saw that, I was shocked. This is probably something we were talking about. When I saw that, I was shocked. That happens in Ohio, not California. And this is John Washko about spraying chemicals in people's yards. I don't know if that name rings a bell at all.
Hi, John. I love you, John. That's great. You know what? It feels so good because, we do get some hate, and it's nice to know, I feel like the group of people who are really committed to this message, we're not going to be deterred because we realize that we're all in this boat together, and it's no one person individually. It takes all of us in working together as a team. And so John, Adam, definitely part of my team. Now you.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, definitely. And he said one other thing. He said the big question is, will time run out before we can educate all the ignorant people who have no clue what is happening to Mother Earth? And that is so true. Like, I love what you're doing because people need to be educated, because if you're not, and I think the way you're educating is very like on a personal way. Like you are, I feel like people are more sympathetic, or they care more about things when the human story is involved. Like when people come and tell like actually how they're getting affected by things like the cancer and what's happened to their kids and their animals, and they could see themselves through these people. So I think the way that you are educating, it's not just a bunch of facts, it's people. So I think that's really going to make the difference. And I'm going to, spread the word and advocate your films. And I'm just really excited. So thank you for speaking with me. I so appreciate it.
Oh, I'm deeply grateful. And to everybody who's watching, thank you so much for taking the time to watch the film and to listen to this conversation. And I can't wait to see what we're able to create. I do think we can do it in time. I think that, this is our time here on this earth. It's like the most epic story ever, right? We're we're the story in the making. And I really do believe that we'll have a happy ending.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So we should probably end the conversation like this, because that was a great final line. So thank you again, Rebecca. And I look forward to seeing Common Ground, and I'm just excited to follow the journey.
Thank you. Great to spend time with you today.
All right. Thanks, Rebecca.